Good afternoon everyone and a very warm welcome to Hindu College Amritsar. Today we feel truly honoured to have with us Ma'am Inez Baranay, an eminent Australian writer who has authored 9 novels along with several works of non-fiction and short prose. She is a passionate traveller and has spent time in many countries across the world, developing a deep and lasting connection with India. Her latest novel, Soul Climate, is set in India and presents a thought-provoking account of India's struggle and independence. We are delighted to host her on our campus today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming to our college. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are also grateful to Majha House for providing this wonderful opportunity to interact with Ma'am Baranay and hear her valuable views. I would also like to share with you, ma'am, that Hindu College proudly completed 101 glorious years in 2025, that is last year, and has produced distinguished personalities across every field. Our illustrious alumni include former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh Ji, our first Field Marshal Sen Manekshaw, Arjuna awardees Davinder Roja and Dinesh Khanna, Justice H.R. Khanna, former Indian cricket captain Bishan Singh Bedi, renowned bowler Madan Lal, celebrated comedian Kapil Sharma and many more. Recently, 6 of our students were selected for the Women's Premium League, that is WPL. Among them, 3 Renuka Thakur, Aman Jodh and Pratika Rawal are proud members of the Indian women's team, bringing great honour to our institution and country. On behalf of our Vice Principal, Mr. Sanjay Khanna, Registrar Dr. Vijay Kumarji and entire staff of Hindu College, I extend a heartfelt welcome to our esteemed guests. Now I request Mr. Sanjay Khanna, Dr. Vijay, Mr. Neeraj and Ms. Anu Sandan to kindly come on the stage and present a token of gratitude to ma'am.
Thank you. That's lovely. Okay.
So we'll start then.
Yeah.
Here's your mic and this is mine.
Inez, thank you so much for being with us today, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure is mine, and thank you for the warm welcome.
So just to give you a brief introduction to the book, this is her latest book, her latest novel, and the title is Soul Climate, which I find to be a very interesting title. So could you please start from here? What exactly does soul climate mean, and what do you want it to say to the readers?
Soul climate is a phrase that comes from Halide Edip, who was this historical figure who was the starting point for this novel and is someone who appears in the novel. She visited Delhi in 1935 and she wrote a book about it called Inside India the following year. And in that she speaks, she had promised to write about her time in India, and she was quite daunted. How do you write about a place that's so multiple and complex, and she'd only spent some months here, could she really do it? But she found the reasons, and one of the reasons she said was India was closest to her soul climate than any country not her own.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's where the phrase comes from. And I just, I didn't have that title in the beginning, but eventually, it was there all along, what I should call the book. And I think it's a very suggestive phrase, and I think, anyone can take from it what they want, but we talk about the soul, we talk about soulmates, we talk about a soulful place, so whatever our belief system, we have some concept of the soul, and I just love the sense of one soul having a climate that might be agreeable with another climate.
It's interesting thought.
Yeah.
And could you also please share a brief outline and of the plot of the book or the narrative of the book, because most of the students have not read the book as yet.
Okay, well, it's not a conventional narrative. It's quite an unconventional book in some ways, I think you would agree. And its structure has 3 types of chapters. And it shifts between these 3 types of chapters. One of them follows Halide Edip's time in India, and that's very much based on her own writings and writings about her. But I don't enter her inner life, but I speculate about what she might have been thinking, what she did not say, and so on. Then there's another strand of chapters which is completely fictional. And this concerns 3 young women, very close friends and cousins, who were part of the household and the milieu in Delhi at the time. And they're all at a turning point in their lives and making big decisions about their lives around the age of 20, and are all affected in some way by Halide Edip's visit. And then there's a 3rd type of chapter, which I call metta, which are more almost like essays. They're very much from a kind of intrusive narrator, not unlike myself, speculating, talking about various issues, books that were important at the time, and things like research and fiction and history. So the reader has to find their way in this structure, but once you see how that structure works, you're free to make your own way through the book in different ways. And some people might want to skip and just read one type of chapter through, or you might want to follow the way that they're set up.
Is that how you actually wrote the book?
Oh no, the book.
In that fashion?
No, that the structure emerged after a long time. You know, books take a long time to write, some more than others, and the ones that are complex and experimental take longer. So there were many drafts and many experiments and many trying out and many possibilities and much throwing out. So eventually this structure emerged as the one that felt right for the material I had.
So I believe your parents were Hungarian. You were born in Naples, and then you emigrated to Australia, after which there have been very frequent journeys all over the world. How has this exposure to different cultures and different people shaped you as a person and your worldview?
Well, that's not easy to answer.
Of course not.
I mean, quite clearly, a childhood like mine, a child of post-war refugees in a very Anglo-dominated Australia, and it took some time, but by the time I eventually could begin to travel, I did as much as possible. And rather than just going from place to place, I preferred to go somewhere and stay for some time and have a kind of regular neighborhood and a regular routine. And
Feel the soul of the climate.
That's great, feel the soul of the climate. Have your regular place for coffee and get to know a part of a city or a country rather than a quick look at many parts. So inevitably that's shaped my worldview, and maybe because I don't think about that, it's not easy to say how, but I think I just take it for granted that humankind is very multifarious and variable, and there are so many possibilities of how people can be and what various cultures are, and they're not necessarily cultures and communities which are not necessarily either national or local or religious based or anything like that, but communities of like-mindedness. And it became clear to me that the like-mindedness, maybe soul climate comes in here, is not geographically based, and it's not even based on any other obvious markers of identity. And the more I got to know people from elsewhere, the clearer that became to me.
Thank you. So, this book is centered around Haripe and her travels to India and her involvement in Indian politics. She traveled a lot, she loved India and wrote about it. You have done the same. Do you see a parallel between her and your life?
Look, there's not much of a parallel except for the very fact that you mentioned. She came from a different time. She was Turkish. She had established her connection here with Dr. Ansari, in whose house she stayed, and she met, many of the leading figures in the independence movement. So it would be, a bit trying too hard to make a parallel, except for the fact that we are both foreigners in this country and came here and found something compelling and heartwarming and fascinating here.
Interesting.
Could you inform our audience about Holiday, because most of us are not aware about who Holiday is and her contribution to the Indian freedom struggle?
Halide Edip was a Turkish freedom fighter, an author and traveller, an extraordinary person, very worth knowing about. And she was a comrade of Mustafa Kemal, who, when Turkey won its independence and the Ottoman Empire was overthrown and Turkey became a free, independent, secular republic in the 1920s, Mustafa Kemal gave himself the title Ataturk, father of the country. So, as usual, the woman who took the part in this was sidelined. And so she had written some extraordinary books, some memoirs of her early life and of her time in the struggle for independence in the First World War, and she also wrote novels, and so she was a really brilliant and fascinating person. By the time she had met in Constantinople, as it was then, now it's Istanbul, she had met Dr. Ansari in 1919, and they discussed they were both working as nationalists and freedom fighters, and how they envisaged their future nation to be, and what it was important about it, what should be a democracy and it should be secular, and so on and so on. And that's when she promised him that she would visit India one day, but it took, at least 20 years before she could do so.
There is a fictional strand in your book which involves people who are living in Delhi and who are actually involved in the freedom struggle. And at the center of this Haveli that we have a predominantly Muslim family. And the three characters who are the main characters in the fictional strand are Muslim girls. They are cousins, Zoya, Noora and Aisha. Was it a conscious decision to have Muslim characters?
Well, it was something that was inevitable, really. Halide came from a Muslim country. She actually wrote about what her idea of Islam is. It's interesting, I won't go into it, but she believed in a certain kind of rational Islam, and she very much believed that religion was a personal matter. So when she came to India, although she met people from all religions and all communities, and in fact she spent a lot of time with Mahatma Gandhi, she was welcomed to an Eid celebration. She was welcomed in the house of Dr. Ansari, who was very close with Gandhi and his collaborator in their project of Hindu-Muslim unity in the new nation. And although many different kinds of people were in that household, these three young women are related to him. And there was a young woman living there, a historical niece of Ansari's, but I didn't want to fictionalize any actual real person, so I found a kind of counterpart in the three cousins who were also closely connected with the household. So inevitably, it was the fact that they would have come from Muslim families, and it was certainly not the reason, but a byproduct of that is that it gives representation to a kind of a person that's not always well represented in contemporary fiction by foreigners.
All right, thank you.
This is not the first book that you have written about India. Neem Days was the first one. What fascinates you about India?
It's that question.
It's a question.
I know, but that's what I ask myself over and over again. I mean, it's not, it's famously fascinating, and there's centuries of history of non-Indians coming to India and becoming fascinated in different ways and to different degrees and so on. And I can't say what it is, but I love the conversations you have here. There's something about people, and this is, in a country that's very various and, it's different. Here we are in Punjab, and I spend a lot of time in the far south and east and west and in the middle. They're all different regions, and the whole question of their connection is still a question. But there's something. Also the food.
Also the food. We just had a kulcha before we came for the book session, and this was the first time that she had a kulcha, and she loved it.
I did.
And the tea also.
And the tea.
I've had
The
tea.
tea, of course, is English.
I've had tea before.
Yes, you added that.
All right. Since your first visit here till today, what changes have you seen here, and what changes would you like to see in the future?
Well, I've seen the changes that anyone my age has seen, whether they live here or observe from afar. And I think we all know what they are. Of course, I first came here in the 1980s, so it was before the free trade era. It was before this enormous growth of a middle class. It was before the huge explosion of technology. Cities have changed, the population has increased, and of course the dominant political culture has changed. What I'd like to see is a lot more acknowledgement and nurturing in the dominant political cultures of the wonderful tradition in India of people living side by side by side from different communities, different religions, different classes, sharing each other's holidays, being good neighbours to each other no matter what. This should be the pride of India, that this is also the history of India. And
The unity in diversity.
yes, unity in diversity, and in actual practice, not as a slogan or as anything like that, but the actual practice of decent human beings living side by side. And it still happens, we still
It does,
have
it does.
among, gatherings of people, maybe this is one of them. But
This
it's
college
not,
is a very good example of that. We have friends who are from different religious backgrounds.
yeah.
I come from a Sikh background, she's from a Hindu background, and so on.
Yeah, and we're, colleagues and comrades and scholars together and all of that, and this microcosm I would like to see much more represented as the public face of India, because it's something to be proud of and something to nurture and something to strengthen, in my opinion.
Exactly. There's something in your book that reminds me now of that phrase that you talk about having a religion and having a belief.
Well, questions of religion, belief and faith have concerned me forever, and so there is some discussion about these things inevitably in that book. It's too many points of view represented for me to sum it up, but it's probably worthwhile considering things like that. Whether a religious... See, people can have a certain religious identity in common, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily believe exactly the same things, or even that they all have faith in the same things, or indeed anything at all. And so the questions of, religion and culture, where, or if there's a line between them, are also explored to some extent anyway.
Thank you. This, I believe, is your first visit to Punjab and Amritsar, and you are almost at the end of your trip now. How has the trip turned out for you this far?
Well, you can
And
see.
what were you looking forward to most?
Well, I was looking at people. I mean, my connection was Preeti Gilman, you know, of course, and
the founder of Majha House.
she founded Majha House, which is this wonderful house, but it is where people gather regularly for discussions about literature and culture and all of the things, and what a wonderful thing. So we've been in touch for some years now, because she's actually my
Your agent.
in India. And so, you know, this trip has been planned for some time. And as she did, I was so looking forward to meeting her and the people around her, because then she says, my team, and who's this team, who are these people?
I'm in the team.
You're in the team, yes. And I've never been to Amritsar, and I've wanted to come for a very long time. Not least, I will say, it's a bit of a cliche, but to see the Golden Temple. I haven't been there yet, but I'm not leaving until I see it. And as I'm discovering, there are more fascinating historical aspects to Amritsar, and you know, I'm meeting people and eating the food and finding so much pleasure here. And you have such a lovely city, as it combines the best of a city and a smaller and slower place as well. And you know, I think that's ideal, and it's a pleasure to breathe the air.
So, last question for today, before we hand off the mic to the students.
How Indian have you become?
Well, I can't pretend to be Indian in any way, I don't think.
But I believe that you used a datun at one point of time.
I used a what?
A datun, neem datun.
Oh, people use that elsewhere in the world, by the way. It's also used in Africa, I believe. I was doing a lot of research about neem for my novel Neem Dreams. So inevitably, you know, part of the research is using it. And I will say it was, you know, as people know, it's perfectly effective, and people's teeth are strong and clean where these things are used, and bringing in the plastic toothbrushes and commercial toothpaste to places that actually have neem trees. This is what's wrong with the world today.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of our conversation, and we now open the house for Q&A. So anyone who would like to ask anything
You said anything, and I mean anything.
about her life, her travel, her journeys, her books.
आप कुछ पूछना चाहते हो, आप अपनी लैंग्वेज में, मतलब हिंदी पंजाबी वो पूछ लो, सर ट्रांसलेट कर देंगे.
Please.
Ma'am, how many countries you have traveled?
How many countries have I travelled in? I've never counted.
Okay. And have you tried pani puri in India?
Pani puri, certainly I have, yes. I had it in Delhi many years ago for the first time in a market there. Yes.
Did you like it?
I did like it. Yeah, especially that time in Delhi in the market for the first time. Yeah.
Thank you.
On off.
But
I can hear you.
कोई बात नहीं.
I can hear you.
what motivated you to write first time?
What motivated me to write the first time? Like many writers, I began at a very early age and always knew I would be a writer. And that was, and I didn't know the word motivation then. Of course, it began with reading, and I suppose, but I don't know who can remember their very early life, but like many writers, you read as much as you can, and at some point you realise that other people wrote the things that you were reading, and the possibility of writing something yourself emerges. And then the practice of writing just for myself, like keeping diaries and notebooks and journals and writing little stories, began very early, even though it took a very, very long time before I would show it to anyone else.
Any other question anyone wants to ask? Please.
Ma'am, how many books have you written?
How many books have I written or read? I haven't counted the ones I've read. How many books have I written? This is my 10th novel, and there's at least 3 books of non-fiction and a couple of collections of short prose. Yeah. You can check my website and count them, because I might have lost count there too.
9 novels.
This is 10. This is number 10.
This is the 10th one, right?
What was your first impression when you visited India for the first time?
My first impression, it was a very long time ago, before any of you were born, 1980. I landed in Bombay, and see, I'd lived in a part of Asia before, in Malaya, so there was something familiar there. I think it was, yes, it's the smell of spices and so on. You know, it's a very, all the senses are bombarded, and you just have this sense of being, I'd come from Europe, I was on my way back to Australia, somewhere so very different, and I was just, I just had to, I wanted to see everything.
I mean, one thing, you can say only one, but things, you can say only one, but one thing that you don't like about India.
What do I not like about India?
The crowded places.
Huh?
The crowded places.
The air in Delhi is very hard to breathe. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you.
We were also talking about the traffic.
Yes, in some cities, you know, you're very lucky here. Yeah.
Thing that you have learned by writing.
Oh, what an interesting question. The best thing I've learned by writing. How to write better.
Basically, the thing that we do on daily routines, we learn from them, right?
Yes.
So you basically write a lot, you have written 10 novels. So basically, what's the most important thing or experience that you have learned from it?
You know, I've written so many, I've written a lot about writing also. I wrote another book which was published in India too, although it was not a novel, it's a book of essays called Sun Square Moon, essays on yoga and writing, and I look at the whole practice of writing alongside practicing yoga and things the two disciplines can learn from each other. So I answered that at very great length. So there are so many things. I mean, one of them is that to be a writer is to be committed to that practice. To write means to rewrite. And there's a difference between writing for yourself and writing as a personal practice, which is a great thing to do, and writing that you want to present for others to read, because then different kinds of things come into play. Then you don't give the first thing that you wrote, you know, then comes the careful crafting and editing and so on. And so, as someone has said, you know, writing is rewriting, and that's what that means. And also writing, because depending on what writing you're doing, it requires a kind of rigorous honesty of some kind, and so, I mean, maybe we all delude ourselves about ourselves, quite possibly, but I think as a journey of self-knowledge, I think writing is a very good technique for that, among other things.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
There are no wrong questions.
You'll have to speak up.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਰੀਡ ਕਰਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਕਦੀ ਕਦੀ ਘਰੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨੀਂਦ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਟਰਨ ਕਰ
So, that's an interesting question from him. He says that when he or they all are studying, they sometimes feel tired and sleepy. Do you ever feel sleepy when you are writing?
Yes, and then I go and have a sleep. mean, sleeping, you reset your brain. And when you wake, you're refreshed. And also, your mind does some work in your sleep.
While sleeping, your mind sometimes exhausted.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, whether you're studying to learning,
Yes, of course.
to have a little sleep while you're doing it can actually help you as a way to assimilate what you've been learning. So of course you need the determination to keep on studying, but you also need to know when to rest and to leave it alone and trust in those processes of the mind that will absorb the things in relaxation, sometimes better than by just pushing yourself through. Sleep can be a superpower. Use it.
So the next time you feel sleepy while you're studying, just sleep.
That is what he was expecting.
Yeah, I guess. Ashish, you want to ask something? Anything.
पेपर्स में नहीं सोना बस
While reading, not writing.
So let me ask you. You can frame your question while I ask this question. You have written non-fiction, you have written short prose, you have written novels. Which is your favorite genre?
Oh, it is fiction.
Fiction?
Yes.
Not right.
Yeah.
Why? Short fiction or longer fiction?
Well, I do love a big project like a novel because I'm living another life,
Yes, of course.
And I love that because when I'm not traveling India, my life it's not enough. I need to be living someone else's life as well and thinking about someone else from the inside, and the more fictional they are, the better it is. So I like that. But it's good to work in a short form sometimes. I've been doing a lot more of that lately too.
Thank you. Ashish, you have another question, Akshay?
So do you ever think of writing a movie?
Oh, yes. I actually was accepted to a film lab in Amsterdam to do a 6-month screenwriting course with writers and directors to write a screenplay version of my earlier novel, Mean Dreams. And for a little while it looked as if it would actually get made, but that never happened because I think there's a few million screenplays written for every movie that gets made. I love cinema and I love movies, and so I do love the form. And one of the things I love about it is the collaboration. So that was really a wonderful thing. And then I experimented with writing a screenplay adaptation of something else. And then I wrote one of my novels first as a screenplay. It's a vampire novel set in Amsterdam called Always Hungry. And again, I had some interest from producers and it never did get made. And I turned that into a novel. So rather than adapting from novel to screenplay, in that case, I adapted. But to work in films, writing fiction is a very solitary occupation, and movie making is completely different. It's absolutely collaborative, and you need partners, and you need to be involved with other filmmakers to do it, and that does not seem to be my fate.
Now you have a question? Ma'am?
Have you ever thought of writing your own biography?
I will never write my autobiography. I've written a little bit of memoir work. Actually, now that I've said, I wrote one memoir book which was just about a trip I took in Europe in 2006. And so it's called Local Time. And yeah, so I did do that. So it was a very limited subject matter. It was just my time in Europe with various things. I actually do have a bit of a memoir project on the go, but I can't quite commit to it because of this longing to be back in a fictional world. Yeah.
Anyone else?
How much time to take to write the book?
Oh. How long is a piece of string is the usual reply. Every book has its own time, yeah? Long years. I'll just say years. I mean, it depends what kind of book. right? And who's writing it? Because some people can write very fast and write more than a book a year and so on. It's a different kind of writing. Because I'm a slow writer and I rewrite a lot and I make a lot of experiments along the way, it will take a long time. And in the past, I have not always been able to work all the time on my writing because of the need to earn a living and do other kinds of work. So that also is a factor in how long it takes. You have to put it aside, maybe spend a semester teaching, you have some time off and you can work and so on and so on. So I can just say a long time and different for each book.
But it's really great, even then, in spite of all these things, you've got to manage your books and all.
Somehow.
It's really great.
Somehow.
Go ahead.
So have you ever got a thought of earning livelihood from writing novels and books?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Ma'am, as we were talking about movies, like, did you watch Indian movies, Bollywood movies ever?
I have watched Indian movies, but as we were discussing before, I haven't had the opportunity for quite some years. So please don't ask me what I've seen and so on, because I haven't even thought of that. And I've watched Bollywood movies, and I've watched movies from Bengal, of course, the classic cinema of Bengal, Satyagraha and so on, and not a lot else. And this is a big gap in what I would love to be able to do. I'm not sure that the streaming services are available to me in Australia. Maybe I have to make a new DVD library or something. And recently I was in Kerala and they're telling me I have to see all the Malayalam films. So I have missed an awful lot, I'm sorry to say. The last big Indian film, but it's not Bollywood, I think, is it? RRR. So that was like even in Australia, because we have a lot of Indian people there too. So it was quite a big hit, both in cinema and online. So not enough is the brief answer. Yeah.
And ma'am, have you ever written about love?
Have I ever written about love?
Yes.
All the time, but I don't write about romantic love in the conventional sense.
Like real love.
Spiritual. The spiritual. He's talking about the spiritual love.
You mean spiritual love?
No, like
Look, love is a question for me. It's not something.
not related to God, but
Hey, God is asking the spiritual love.
yeah.
Well, I think again, it's like, what do we mean, and so on, because often, people, they only mean romantic love. That's not my area, although of course it's touched on, and in Soul Climate there's a romance going on between
In this book,
so is
there are
spiritual.
two love stories. One is the romantic love story, and one is the spiritual love story. Also.
Yeah, that's true. And then the other one is the love of the country, right? The love of, so there are many different kinds of love, and it's a question rather than love.
as we are all our youth here, that's why, because like some of them, like including me, or like everyone have ever experienced heartbreak.
Part of life. If you have a breakup, heartbreak.
Do you want to ask her if she has faced heartbreak, or
Yeah.
the audience in general?
Have you ever experienced heartbreak in your life?
My goodness, I'm 76 years old. I couldn't have got to this age without experiencing probably nearly all the emotions and tribulations that life gives to pretty much everybody, unless you live in a cave on a mountain.
One last question. One tip for us, like who have experienced that, like you have experienced a lot, like you are, so can you give us a little
Advice or
advice?
suggestions you want to have?
Like, about it.
I don't know why you would take advice from me. Be careful who you take advice from. One of the things is, when you're very young and times are difficult, it may be heartbreak, it may be depression, it may be feeling trapped, it may be any number of things, and I've experienced that too. when you're very young, it feels like this is life and this is how it will be. So the one thing to know is eventually it changes. Everything will change. And usually it gets better. And then it gets worse again. But that's something to know, that whatever you're going through, it's going to change.
Yes.
And eventually, each of you, you have to find your own way to build up those habits in life and of thought that strengthen you and get you through. And I think one of those is to have good friendships. I think, yeah, good, honest, trusting friendships will do so much for the quality of your life and the ability to live well.
Thank you, ma'am.
So don't take the breakup seriously, right?
This reminds me of an anecdote where a writer was asked by someone in the audience to say something that would make sad people happy and happy people sad. And the writer thought for a minute and he said, "This too shall pass."
Yes, pass, right.
Any other questions? Okay, wonderful.
Who was your inspiration when you started writing?
My inspiration was all the writers that I read. Okay, I didn't know any writers. There was no such thing as learning from anyone, and I started young. So it was really reading and reading widely and always reading something new and different and looking for all the things that I could read that made me want to go on writing, because often, I think this is true, you know, a book will make you want to write something because you think, I want to write something like that, but different, you know, or I want to write something that's nothing like that, or, yeah, so it's, especially in early life, it's mostly from reading.
Thank you.
What do you enjoy most about writing?
What do I enjoy most about writing? Finishing. And then things like finding the right word. And editing a sentence.
Sometimes it is a pleasure to find the exact word that fits it.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, you know, this is people who write poetry, that's absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Every word should be the right word, every word should be essential. And I think for prose writers too, to have that poet's attention to language, not in your first draft when you're just having ideas and deciding what to write, that's a, you know, that can be chaotic and messy and repetitive and rubbish, it's fine, you just have to put something down. But when you come to crafting something for others to read, to me that's the joy of writing, not that first draft, but the crafting of it for a reader.